And he says, not, where he got 2.5% inflation that he's using here is, quote, the average target inflation. So instead of using actual inflation, here's what the Fed hoped inflation would be. So I'm going to break this down for you. Wage growth is just the amount that wages increase. As money supply increases, you're basically going to see a damn near straight line. Sometimes it'll go up a little faster, sometimes a little slower, but over a long enough period, you're basically just going to see wages are always going to go up somewhat. We almost never have deflation, so wages are always going to go up somewhat. That's not really important. Wage growth itself is unimportant. Real wage growth is wage growth minus inflation. That brings you to a number. The question that real wage growth is trying to ask is the average person's purchasing power increasing or decreasing, and by how much? So if wage growth goes up 10%, but inflation goes up 20%, then your purchasing power has decreased. You're making 10% more, but you're paying 20% more for goods. Simple, right? So we're looking at real wage growth. The amount that the wages went up minus the amount that inflation went up. Everybody get it? So the two data sets that we would need is what was the wage growth and what was the actual numbers on wage growth and what was the actual numbers on inflation. You need two pieces of data to figure out real wage growth. Actual nominal wage growth, the actual amount of money that wages went up, and the actual amount of money that inflation went up. This is what he just tried to pull on you. He's saying wage growth per month was 0.44, and yearly, the average inflation was 2.5. I haven't seen a number that's even close to 2.5 for an average over Biden's entire term. So when I ask him, where did you get that number? His response is, that's average target inflation. Is there anyone that can tell me why that's one of the dumbest things you've ever heard? Can anyone figure it out? What's those two numbers we need again? We need the actual wage growth minus the actual inflation rate. So he takes the actual wage growth minus, not the actual inflation rate. He doesn't use the actual inflation rate. He used the targeted inflation rate. That would be the equivalent if Trump says, it's my target that I would like wages to go up 5,000%. And our target for inflation is 2.5%. Well then, never mind what the inflation actually is and what the wage growth actually is. All we'll look at is the targets. According to the targets, holy shit, Trump's fucking killing it. If you're interested, as the Statista argument shows, or the Statista and BLS numbers, actual CPI under Biden was up about 4.9%. Not 2.5, 4.9. Basically double what he's claiming here. So his big cope, he guaranteed I lied about the data and I wouldn't send it. That's exactly what happened, you dumb shit. But hey, I'll just send anything, put a screenshot, make it public and say, see, I did it, I sent it. And he once more hopes that no one looks into the details. So there you have it, there's the details. Everybody got it? He did not send data that backed up his claim that inflation was up, or real wages were up between 0.23 and 0.29 a month. No serious economist, not even those that are pushing for Biden, make that claim. It's a fucking joke. The only person making that claim is RTP. He's full of shit. Emmettnomics, how you doing, man?
He was all over the place with the numbers too. He just couldn't go ahead and give an accounting for what was his argument with when he was trying to use the numbers to back it up. So he would go ahead and say, well, wages went up, and when you were trying to account for inflation, no, we can't use that. We have to use these monthly wages that are real. It's like, well, how are they real if we don't even know if we're counting inflation or not? He would give you the sources. The sources part was the weirdest for me, because you were like asking, hey, what is the source? Can we go to the source so we can figure it out? He will be like, no, that's bad faith, pretty much.
He can't provide a piece of data. What is the name of the organization, RTP? I'm going to look it up myself.
It is CFRB or CRFB.
Okay, I'm looking and it claims that the CFRB does not do things like keep data on real wage growth. That's what I'm reading as I look it up.
So they cite data. They're not they don't collect the data. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that it says that It just they don't do things like creating data.
Listen, Rob. I'll send it to you. I'll look for it. I'll try.
You're not going to. You're not going to. I'll tell you right now what you're going to do. You're going to say when no one's watching.
When he does, in order for Rob to Rob's going to now tell me what I'm doing. You are such a little bitch. It is crazy. You can't take any answer from anybody.
Okay, then we'll see.
When you give an answer in college, if you write a paper in college and you quote a source, and you don't quote that source, it won't get accepted.
It's easy to prove me wrong.
Rob didn't cite a single source from today.
So true. I started off citing sources.
In fact, the first source that he cited, he had to walk back. He's like, I don't even know where this is
but we're
from.
talking
about your source.
I saw every source. We're talking
It's
about your
fine.
claim.
It's fine. I will get it. The only reason I don't have this source is because I didn't link it in my outline, and now I'm going to have to go back through my research and find it. And when I find it, I'll be happy to send
Here's
it to
what's
Rob.
going to happen.
But what
So,
I didn't do is put a hyperlink
keep
in my
it
outline.
I keep it.
Would you call that a
Never
source?
gonna happen.
So it's not going to happen.
happen.
That data does
You say
not
source
exist. And what you're
inequality?
going to do when no one's
Source
watching
inequality.
is you'll send something
fair.
small and be like, oh, yeah, okay, a little mistake. When you were wrong, you're even
Why
wrong
don't you
here. You're
stop
saying that I
predicting
didn't.
Why
You
don't you
can't
just
even help
stop
yourself but
predicting?
interrupt. It can't even stop interrupting here now, right? Like, that's what's going to happen
Because
when no
you're just
one's watching.
predicting
You
what
see,
you're gonna
yeah,
do.
you're right. I am predicting because you know that you're wrong on the data. Everyone here knows. Everybody knows. Like, I get it.
Everybody knows.
Hold up a sign.
Come
Come on, you can do it. Hold up a sign. Go ahead. That's what
I
you're
already
best
did.
at, right? So he was going to send me the data on the CFRB. That's what he's going to do. I promise I'm going to do it. And then you hear what he says here. He says, when I said you're not going to do it, you're going to put up some data that's wrong, that's different, and be like, it was just a little mistake. Here's the link. Do the math yourself. Factor in the 2.5. This is from the Atlanta Fed, not the CFRB. As I said, he was not going to be. Now, he said it was from the CFRB. I said, they don't do research like that. He said, no, they're citing it. They're citing it. So I asked him specifically, I said, how come this isn't from the CFRB that you said you were going to send? His response was, I was wrong about it being from the CFRB. And what gets me is this, like, I don't want to be the sort of debater that just yells source. And if the numbers were roughly what I believed, I would say, okay, right? But when I'm looking at the real wage numbers and it shows the best ones I could find for Biden are like real wage growth was stagnant. And that's like people that are super biased for Biden. They're like, it was basically zero, right? And then most of what I'm reading, it's like real wage growth was down like 1.4%, 1.8%, right? So those are bad. Those are bad numbers over 4 years, right? Yeah. And so when he says, no, actually they were up 0.21 a month on average, that's pretty good. That's like I'm looking at data that's here and he's looking at data that's here. And so it's like, okay, we have to look at where we're getting this data from then. Like, I'm not trying to be a prick. It's not like the person that's like, hey, punching babies in the face is bad. Source. Like, no, that's not what I'm doing. I'm like, we need to see, because I think, and this is what I still believe, I think that he was just using nominal wage growth. I think that that's what he was looking at. And so when I pointed out was like, yeah, but why should we use that number? Shouldn't we subtract inflation and get real wage growth? He, instead of arguing, because he can't argue why you would prefer wage growth over real wage growth, so he just says, no, it was real wage growth. And it's like, no. Now, I don't know if you were watching earlier. I don't know how soon you started watching. But you remember how he kept saying he was going to send me the source today?
Yeah.
Did you see when I brought up what he sent me? He brings up the graphic from the Atlanta Fed, and let me tell you what he says about it. Now, I don't think the graphic, I don't understand how he's getting to the point where he's saying this, but let's just take it. He says, here's the link, do the math yourself. Factor in 2.5% inflation on average. Take Biden's actual nominal wage growth figures from the trackers, which places nominal growth between 0.44% and 0.5% recently. For inflation, a 2.5 annual rate converts to roughly 0.21% monthly. 0.44 to 0.5 nominal wage growth per month minus 0.21 inflation per month equals 0.23 to 0.29 real wage growth per month. Now, he said that he was going to send me something from the CFRB. This isn't that. He said, yeah, I screwed up the source. But then I asked him this question. He says, he starts off saying that we're going to wait. I don't see where he's getting the nominal wage growth numbers under that chart of 0.44 to 0.5. But nonetheless, let's say they're there somehow. He's weighing that against, the pressure he's weighing against is an annual average of 2.5% inflation during Biden's term. Where the fuck is he getting that number? And so I asked him, now this is the best part. I asked him, because the numbers I'm looking at are like the average inflation annually under Biden's 4 years was like 4.9. So where are you getting 2.5? And he says, I shit you not, he says where he got 2.5% inflation that he's using here is, quote, the average target inflation. So instead of using actual inflation, here's what the Fed hoped inflation would be. It was way worse than that, but this is what they wanted it to be. So we shouldn't use the number of the actual inflation. We should use what they wanted it to be. I don't even know what to say about the insanity of this. Now, he knows that it's bullshit. You know that it's bullshit. And anyone that has above like a 8th grade knowledge of economics is like, no, if you're taking wages minus inflation, you use the actual numbers of wages and inflation. You don't use, well, this is what we hoped they would be. And so like, and then another problem with this, by the way, if you read this carefully, again, he told me that he got this, that it said this is what real wage growth was. Now he's like, no, I used nominal. I did the math myself. It was from a different source. Listen to this part that he cleverly adds. Take Biden's actual nominal growth, wage growth figures from the trackers, which places nominal growth between 0.44% and 0.5 recently. Recently? Well, why would we only use the recent data if we're doing an average over the 4 years? So instead of using the nominal growth over all 4 years, apparently he just uses the term recently. I don't know when the threshold is for when the cutoff of that is. And then instead of using the actual inflation data, he's using, well, this is what the targeted inflation data was. Yeah. All of this is done after he bullshits everyone on the stream last night. And again, the reason that this is so important is he only made 2 arguments. He said deficit spending and wage growth. That was it. And he's dead wrong on the wage growth. The deficit spending, I will admit that there are people like the CFRB that predict that Trump will spend more than Biden, but there's people that predict the opposite. And when we look at the actual data of what the debt was when they came into office versus when they left office, we can see that those numbers were higher under Biden as well. I think it's important. Let's look at a couple clips to talk about this, because I think that it really illustrates sort of how disingenuous he was throughout this debate.
I can go back to my opening statement. It was.
Did you say wage growth or real wage growth when you said 2.2 to 2.7%?
Real average monthly gain.
Okay, so that's not real wage growth.
Real average monthly gain.
Okay, I would like to once more. I would like to see that data. That the average monthly real wage growth under Biden was 2.7%.
Then go look it up, bud.
Show it.
I gave you.
You're lying. You're lying. You are absolutely lying. The data does not show that. You're lying.
Down that route again.
Now he didn't say real wage growth, as you heard. He said wage growth. So where are you getting that the average was 2.2 to 2.7?
I told you you can go to CFRB and you can look that up yourself.
What is the exact quote? What is the exact quote that it says? I'm going to look it up and I'm going to bring it on screen. And when you're a liar, will you admit that I'm a fucking liar that gaslit everyone from the very first data that I put out at the beginning of this? Will you admit that?
What's your question?
What is the exact quote that it says? So I could go to this document, this website.
I don't have an exact. I don't have.
What do you mean? You're looking at it right now. You're looking at the webpage. Instead of just linking it, you're saying look it up yourself.
He's not doing the math, remember?
Rob, instead of guessing what I'm looking at, maybe a better way to have a conversation with a human being would be to say, "What are you looking at?" Instead of guessing. I'll tell you. Yeah. So I'm looking at my outline, which I pulled from that study. So I can find the study. I'm more than happy to send it to you.
Link it now. Let's look at it while there's an audience.
This is so typical
Rob, I don't have it. I'd be happy to pull it up and send it to you.
So you heard him say study from the CFRB. That's what he said. So it's going to show. I will admit, I was saying 2.7 growth. I was looking at it year over year. He is saying month over month. So he does say 0.27. So 0.27. That's what it's going to show. That 0.27 month on average each month. Biden had a real wage growth of 0.27 and Trump's was only 0.24. Now that's against every data point I've seen. Every data point I've seen shows the best I've seen for Biden was basically that he broke even on real wage growth. The worst I'd seen was something like negative 1.7% of real wage growth. So to see him saying, no, actually, it was up much higher, or at least marginally higher than the year before. When someone says data like that, it's like, okay, well, show me, because that's counter to everything that I've read on this question. This is what he sent me today. I'm not going to show the DM, but I think I could read this. It says, here's the link. Do the math yourself. Factor in 2.5% inflation on average. take Biden's actual nominal wage growth figures from the trackers, which places nominal growth between 0.44 and 0.5% recently. For inflation, a 2.5 annual rate converts to roughly 0.21% monthly. 0.44% to 0.5 nominal wage growth per month minus 0.21 inflation per month equals 0.3 or 0.23 to 0.29 real wage growth per month. So in other words, he says, here's a thing that talks about wage growth, nominal wage growth. And so when we take that and we subtract inflation, which on average was 2.5% per year under Biden, and we take 2.5 divided by 12, so we get the average monthly inflation rate, that gives you a real wage rate of 0.23 to 0.29 0.21 to 0.29%. There are so many things that are laughable with this statement. First is, let me show you the link he sent me. The Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta. Now, the first thing you'll notice is he claimed that he was going to send me a link from the CFRB. This is not the CFRB, as you can see, all right? But this is going to show us that real wage growth went up on average 0.21 to 0.29% under Joe Biden. Just straight wage growth. So you can see Biden comes into office January 2021, 3.4%. He leaves, it's 4.1%. You can see that there's a spike. This is year over year. Now, he says, based on this chart, that this shows an average nominal wage growth a month of let me read this, 0.44 to 0.5%. Where is he getting that? I don't even know how he comes about that data, but that's his claim. Then he says, what we do is take that nominal growth that I don't understand where he's coming from, and says, then we take the inflation numbers, which are on average 2.5. Now, I asked him, I said, first off, you said it was from the CFRB. Where's that link? He says, I was wrong about it being from the CFRB, but I was right about the decimal being in the right place. He's right about that. Okay, so I made it up. I said that I got it from a study of the CFRB, but it turns out I didn't. Okay? I said, can you show me where you get your data that inflation was 2.5% on average, which is going to be necessary for his figures to work? And I shit you not, his response is, that's the average target inflation. I'll repeat that. 2.5% CPI on average? And he says that was the target inflation. Now, can anyone see the problem with this? So we could have just went to like the actual data of the people that said, here, we analyzed the BLS data. Here's what real wage growth was. He says, no, we're not going to do that. Instead, I'll go to nominal wage growth. I'll somehow say, based on this chart, and maybe he has a way to make this work, that it was 0.42 to 0.5% per month of nominal wage growth. Okay, I don't see where he gets that, but maybe he makes it work. And then says, then we'll subtract inflation, which I register as 2.5%. On average under the Biden presidency, which no one suggests. And he's like, well, that was the targeted inflation. Okay. So then, I guess if that's the argument, then it doesn't actually matter what Trump's economic data will be. All that matters is what the targeted data was. So no, the average wasn't actually 2.5%. Here's the actual CPI under Joe Biden. The average year-over-year inflation under Biden was 4.95%. Whoops, damn near double what he suggested. Uh-oh. Now remember, this was one of the only two arguments he had as to why we should prefer Biden or Kamala Harris over Trump. Now, you don't have to take my word for it. Here, I went to the BLS database right here. This is the official Bureau of Labor Statistics. Let's go up to the top here. This first number is what we're going to be looking on. 12-month percent change in CPI, inflation, all items. So let's go down. It depends on where you want to start, but it's almost irrelevant. So I started on the technical first, even though he gets sworn in on the 20th. We started January 2021, 1.4%. And then I put in 48 months of data. The whole way down to here, Biden's last. So from that 2.9, you'll see numbers in here such as 8.3, 9.1, 8.6, 8.5. In fact, the average that he was talking about being 2.5, if we look here, even in the last month, higher, 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 There's lower. There's 2.5. Higher, 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 higher. You're starting to see a trend here. In fact, you won't see a month below 2.5 other than that 1 month and the first 2 months. And we saw numbers going. It goes 1.7, 2.6, that's higher than 4.2, 5, 5.4, 5.4, 5.3, 5.4, 6.2, 6.8, 7, 7.5, 7.9, 8.5, 8.3, 8.6, 9.1. So you don't have to be a math expert to be like, wait a minute. The idea that all of these numbers are going to average out to 2.5 seems ridiculous. My math came out to 0.41 a month, or 4.92 a year, 4.92% a year. His target inflation that he used was 2.5. That's the number he used. Target inflation. Now, do you see how you could bullshit like this? Instead of just providing, can you show me the source that makes this claim? Can you show me? Nah, I can't show you the source. Can't show you that source. Nope. I just have it here. Trust me, I looked at it. It's from the CFRB. Trust me, bro. But I can't show you the source. But trust me, it's there. I'll send it to you. I'll send it off screen. Now, this is exactly what he intended. It's sort of like how they'll put on the economic data and then months later revise it, and people don't pay attention to the revision. That's what he's trying to do. Put out bullshit data that he knows that he can't back up. Claim that, and this is all, by the way, this is all because he's now post hoc generalizing. That's what's happening. The truth is, he probably did find actual data from the CFRB that said wage growth under Biden was like 2.9 and wage growth under, or 0.29, and wage growth under Trump was like 0.24. That's probably true of regular wage growth, but not real wage growth, which takes wage growth minus inflation. And so he wanted to argue, oh, wait, because he couldn't argue why we should prefer just wage growth over real wage growth. So he's just like, yeah, that number was real wage growth. I said, really? That's shocking. Can I see the data? Yeah, I'll send it later. It's from the CFRB. Look it up yourself. I'll send it later. Then he sends it in my DMs. It's like, actually, it wasn't from the CFRB. And actually, it didn't say that. It just gave nominal wage growth. But then I did some mathematical calculations using 2.5 as the inflation number. Why would you use 2.5? Well, that was targeted inflation. Can anyone here remotely explain to me why you would use targeted inflation? I want you to keep in mind, he's saying, oh, wait, we're comparing Biden to Trump. Who had the best real wage growth? And instead of looking at the actual number that went up with wages and the actual number that went up with inflation, and then seeing what the difference was in those numbers, he's like, instead of using the actual inflation data, we'll use what they wanted the inflation data to say. I mean, why even use the real wage growth numbers then? Why not just use targeted wage growth, right? Instead of using real wage, or the actual wage growth with the actual inflation, we'll just use targeted wage growth with targeted inflation. And there you go. That's how we'll judge how well presidents did. He knew that he didn't have CFRB data. That's why I said, you're a fucking liar. You're not going to send this. I was right. He was incapable. He didn't send a link that said real wage growth was up on average 0.21 to 0.29% under Biden, because that data doesn't exist. He's full of shit. He was either misreading it or whatever. And the truth is, what happened was, he fucking knew that it didn't say real wage growth in his opening statement and lied and said, no, that's what it said, and then tried to post hoc justifying it by slap-shotting some data together when it was behind the scenes and say, see, it all works out. Incidentally, for those that are wondering, here's the places I was getting my data. This is Texas A&M University's Private Enterprise for Research Center. I believe it's using BLS data. The real wage story is a story of two trends shown in Figure 1. First, there's the initial period from January 2021 to June 2022, with inflation accelerating from 1.7 to 9.0. Prices rose about 12.3% in those 17 months, while wages rose about 7.3%. So workers saw a rather large 5% decline in purchasing power of their wages. It's little wonder that citizens don't like inflation. Then from June 22 to January 25, prices continued to increase, but at a noticeably slower rate, so that by January 2025, prices had risen to be 21.5% above their level on January 21st. Meanwhile, wages from June 2022 to January 2025 continue to rise at nearly the same steady rate, and by January 2025, they were at 19.9% above the level they started at in January 2021. Over the period of June 2022 to June 2025, workers saw a fairly steady small increase to their purchasing power, but nowhere near enough to make up for that 5% decline in the first 17 months of the Biden administration. As a result, An overall 1.3% decline in real wages shows the destructive impact this inflationary period on the purchasing power of worker wages. 1.3% decline. Or, this is from Statista, and the data it's going to use is from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. Nominal wage rate, that's the number that he's looking at. See how I said it'll just be a steady increase versus real hourly earnings. See how it starts off at about $30 and it ends up at $29.49 or somewhere around there? That resulted in an actual decline in real wages as nominal wage growth still hadn't fully caught up with price increases by December 2024. As our chart shows, nominal average hourly earnings grew from $29.93 in January 2021 to $35.62 in December 2024, a 19.2% increase. During the same period, prices, as measured here by the Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers, climbed 21%, leading to a 1.5% decline in real wages. That means adjusted for price increases, people went from $29.93 an hour to $29.49 an hour during the Biden years. See that? Like roughly close to a 40% drop there, or 40-cent drop there. Considering these are average earnings, it's fair to assume that many people suffered considerably larger and actually noticeable declines in real wages, leading to widespread frustration with the Biden economy. Now, I know he wanted to move along and the people in the group chat wanted to move along. But when he makes two arguments, the other argument he made was what the caller just talked about, deficit spending. That's the only two arguments he made as to why we should prefer Kamala Harris over Trump. And when he comes in with data sets that are just wrong on both accounts, and I'm actually providing data, again, it wouldn't be hard to be like, all right, you're right. And what he tried to do, I already see it in the chat too. This is what he tried to do. I'll get to the super chats here in a minute, I promise. Warren says, Rob, isn't there a difference between dealing with COVID for 1 year versus an entire term? Yes, that's called moving the goalpost. Before we could even discuss why the numbers are what they are, we have to generally agree on what the numbers are. And so what he says is, the numbers are actually better for Biden. And I'm like, no, they're not. That's ridiculous. He goes, yeah, they are. And anyways, COVID. So we shouldn't look at the numbers anyways. The numbers are good, and if they're not good, we shouldn't look at them anyways. The other number that I thought was shocking was when I said, well, what years of Biden can we count? Because he kept saying, have you looked at it without COVID? Have you looked at the Biden years without COVID? And I'm like, when would that be? And he's just like spurging out, oh, you won't look at it. But I'm asking you, according to you, when are those numbers? Is it year one? Nope, we can't use year two. Is it year two? Nope, we can't use year two. Is it year three? Well, what was the number year three? Well, this is what it was. Nope, then we can't use it. Was it year four? And then I give a number that's really bad. And he's like, nope, we can't use that either. Wait, we can't use any of the years. And then I'm like, actually, the number was a little better. Oh, okay, then we can use year four. I mean, I can't think of a better example of confirmation bias than tell me if the number is good or bad for my guy, and I'll tell you whether or not we should count it or not. If it's bad, we shouldn't count it. And if it's good, we should count it. A real person who was trying to be honest would say something like this. I think that the first 2.5 to 3 years, maybe we should cut Biden some slack because of the pandemic. So that's where I'll look at it, 2.5 to 3 years. And then, yeah, the policies after that, fair enough to judge Biden based on. But not him. His criteria is, were the numbers good? If they're good, we count them. Were they bad? If they're bad, we don't count them. Even if that means we don't count any of the numbers during the Biden presidency. But then magically, as soon as Trump's administration starts, now we can count Biden's numbers. I mean, it's absolutely laughable. At one point, he keeps asking me this very question. We should look at the COVID number. We should discount the COVID numbers. Let's look at the spending, the wage growth, etc. after the period of COVID under Biden. And I'm like, okay, but when is that? What year can we start looking at, according to you? So you'll hear how this goes. What I just did for you, because you'll be slimy about this and you won't tell me what dates we should look. He says, why can't you answer? Why can't you answer? I can't answer because you have to tell me what data set you want to look at. Have you looked at the numbers of what it would be without COVID? You tell me when those years were. Am I looking at 2021? No. Am I looking at 2022? Nope. Am I looking at 2023? Nope. So just 2024? Yeah, we could look at those numbers if that's what you want to do. But you can see, even with that, he's going to be full of shit. So when he keeps saying, why won't you answer whether if you looked at the numbers without COVID or not? What do you consider without COVID? When do we start looking at the data? So I'll ask him here to try to clarify that. I looked at the real wage growths under Joe Biden each year, all right? So you tell me when we can start counting. It looks like real wage growth from January 2021 to December 2021 was negative 1.2%. Should we use that year?
No.
Okay. From January 2022 to December 2022, it looks like real wage growth was a negative 2.9%. Should we use that year?
No.
From January 2023 to December 2023, it looks like real wage growth was 0.4%. Should we use that year?
What was inflation during that time?
Inflation average 4.1.
No.
So we shouldn't use that. Okay, from January 2024 to December 2024, it looks like real wage growth was 1.1%. Should we use that year?
What was inflation at?
It was at 6.3%.
No.
So we can't use any of the 4 years under Joe Biden. Do you see what he's doing? He doesn't say, okay, here's the time frame where I believe we could start evaluating Biden's data. He doesn't say that. He just says, is the data good for Biden? No, it's not good. Then no, we can't use it. Nope. Can't use it. Can't use the first year. Can't use the second year. Can't use the third year. Oh, the fourth year's not good either. Nope. Can't use that either. That's exactly what I was dealing with the entire debate. Now, the truth is, I looked at it differently. The inflation year 4 wasn't 6.3%. It was like 2.4%. Then he goes, oh, okay, we could use it. Then we could use that data. That was the debate in a nutshell. That was it. He really didn't have any arguments. He didn't. At one point, he said all of the good numbers were saying, by the way, even his, like, I found it incredible. Like, he doesn't even understand, like, debate strategy anyways. I showed you that part in the opening statement where he was like, you know, oh, we shouldn't just use Trump's second term. We should use his first term. Great. We should use his first term sans COVID. That's what he said. Yeah, the numbers were great, other than the debt spending, which were bad under Biden as well. But okay, he just didn't really have arguments. He held up signs and then fudged numbers. That's it. That was the whole debate.